Привет, игрушка фанатик. Меня зовут D21 Beast. Добро пожаловать. Translation: Hey toy fans, I'm D21 Beast and welcome back to my figure review series here on my YouTube channel. That was a little bit of Russian for you guys today, and if you can't tell, I am super excited to get to this figure review. Recently I did a vlog where a good friend of mine, Jeff, sent me two Marvel Select figures I wasn't expecting. I got Juggernaut and Colossus, and I asked you guys in that video which one you wanted to see first. For all of you who voted, everyone said Colossus. Not a lot of love for Kane Marco, I guess. But with that said, I'm a huge fan of the X-Men franchise from Marvel, and Beast and Colossus are definitely tied for the #1 spot with me. My introduction to Colossus was actually with the 1992 X-Men series, but Colossus actually joined the X-Men in the 1970s with Giant Size X-Men #1, where he was a rookie recruit along with other future legends such as Nightcrawler, Storm, and even Wolverine. Now if you saw my Marvel Select Spider-Man review, you'll know that I don't typically collect Marvel Select figures, but this figure looks really cool and I'm super excited to get into the box and see what this guy's all about. Let's go ahead and get things started by taking a look at the packaging for this figure. Coming down the front of the box, you do have a giant blister bubble packaging that does house the Colossus figure inside, as well as his accessories. On the left-hand side, you do have the name for the figure and then the logo for Marvel Select. As you rotate the box around, you are going to see a great John Cassaday artwork piece of Colossus on the side here from Astonishing X-Men. And then as we flip this package around, you're going to see a bio for Colossus, as well as an image of the figure, as well as some additional images of other figures currently available from Diamond Select. Alright guys, well that's the packaging. Let's say we get this Colossus figure out of the box and see what he's all about. Alright Tovarish, here we have Colossus out of the box, and this figure certainly impresses. I really like the sort of paint or plastic that they've used for the skin parts on this Colossus figure. I think it plays off the light really well, and I think it's a really good substitute for actually having like metal skin for the figure. I just think it looks really good. I also like the paint that they've used for the wristbands. It's sort of a metallic red, and they've used that again on the belt here, as you can see. And then overall, I think the choice of plastic that they've used for the red is really nice too. But this figure has got some excellent paint shading on the chest and on the legs. As you flip him around, we even have that same sort of paint shading here on the back. And let's take a closer look at this figure. Let me get my light adjusted. I think that the head sculpt looks really nice. I like that they've actually painted the eyes on this figure. If you remember the Marvel Legends Colossus that came out a few years back, his eyes were just regular silver. They didn't even paint them. But this Colossus actually has white on his eyes, which is really nice. And a little bit of blue worked in there. It's kind of hard to see. And as you come down the figure, you'll see here that he does have sort of a sculpted seam on the front. Very consistent with how his costume was drawn in the Astonishing X-Men books, even though we have the classic 70s, 80s outfit here. This piece is actually separate, so you can pull this off if you can get the figure's head off, although it doesn't look quite right because the abs still have the costume on it. But you almost even get a late 80s version of Colossus when you pull this piece off. But it's worth noting, they've completely sculpted all the musculature with the lines and everything underneath this figure, so great amount of detail there. Coming down, we also have the belt here with some nice metallic red inside the belt. I like the gold choice that they've used. And then as we come down, you can just keep seeing this fantastic paint work. The paint's really clean on the boots. Coming off the back of the figure, more clean paint. And again, just some really excellent sculpting overall. I really like what they've done with this figure. This might be my favorite Colossus. Colossus comes with the accessory that you see here. And might I just quickly say, I think any position you put this figure in, he looks absolutely fantastic. But anyway, onto the accessory. This is sort of a Danger Room masher wall. Now, I like the look of it, I do. With the way that they've sculpted the spikes on here, there's actually rivets or bolts that have been sculpted all the way around the edge, and there's even a paint wash on it. It's got excellent detail on the legs, but my biggest problem with this item is that it sits at the angle that it does. Now, there's a classic comic cover of X-Men that you actually saw on the packaging for this figure, where Colossus is actually pushing on either side of these walls that are spiked and coming at him. Well, that's kind of what they went for with this piece here, the Danger Room wall. But my only problem is that the angle that it sits at, I'm not really sure what it's supposed to be doing or how Colossus is supposed to interact with it. I guess you can have him pounding down on it, or you can even kind of set it up, but the feet then aren't holding it up, and it's a little short for the figure. So it's a cool accessory, I'm not sure that it was executed right. I wish it would have stood up higher, or maybe even attached to the wall perhaps, so you could hang it on the wall, and you can't do that with this one. It has feet on it. They have just holes in the back because of how they were molded. But it'd be really cool if you could hang this piece on the wall and then have Colossus actually attacking it or something. But as it stands right now, an interesting idea. I get what they were going for, but I wish it would have been executed a little bit differently. Moving on to articulation, we can see that this Colossus figure really does outshine some of his fellow Marvel Select figures. This figure actually can look down this far, a little bit, and look up that far. And he's got an interesting neck joint that allows his head to kind of rock back and forth like this. So you can make him dance. He has a rotation at the shoulder that moves around, a little bit hindered by the actual costume. And actually on my Colossus, this joint is really tight, and this joint is even tighter. As you look at him here in neutral stance, I can get the arm down lower on this side, but this is as far down as it goes on this side, so I wish it was a little less tight on this side. So you may experience that same sort of issue. But then he does have a bicep rotation. He's got a single jointed elbow that moves up that far and back that far. He's got a full rotation at the wrist, as well as a hinge that allows his hand to move back that far and move in and forward that far. And he has that same articulation on the other side, again just a little bit tight here. He doesn't have any sort of waist swivel, but he does have a diaphragm joint that allows his chest to move forward that far, move back that far, and he can rotate a full 360 degrees. And then he has these ball jointed hips. And this is another one where it's a little tricky to get this guy to move, but his leg will move forward that far and move back that far if you have the ball joint rotated properly. If you get in there and kind of twist it around, you'll also see that his leg can bend out from the body that far. And then he has a full rotation, of course, because it's a ball joint here. And then he has a double jointed knee, which is really, really nice. Great range of motion there. And then he has a rotation here at the calf, and then he's got a foot that'll move forward that far, move back that far, and he's got the Hasbro-style ankle pivot, which is really incredible. I don't think I've seen that, at least on any Marvel Select figure that I've owned. So overall, a fantastic range of movement on this Colossus figure. It really is probably one of the best ones I've seen released from Diamond Select. Height-wise, we can see that Colossus does come in right around 8.5 inches tall. For some size comparison, here we have Marvel Select Colossus compared to the average-heighted Marvel Select Doctor Doom figure. Staying in the Diamond Select camp, here we have Marvel Select Colossus compared to the Star Trek Enterprise Clang figure, one of the taller Select figures I own. And compared to Captain Picard from Star Trek The Next Generation. Here he is compared to the Marvel Legends Series 5 Colossus and the Marvel Legends X3 Colossus figure, definitely taller. And finally, here we have Select Colossus compared to the 6-inch scale Marvel Legends Infinite Series Wolverine. Huh, you're pretty huge, Petey. Fastball special from you might actually kill me. Duh, perhaps. Now, I'd like to take a quick moment to just kind of give you my opinion on something. I've seen a lot of people online suggest that if you can't get the Series 5 Colossus back here from Marvel Legends, that you can just go ahead and swap out the Marvel Select version and basically maintain your display. Well, I've got to say, I think the scale's actually off by quite a bit. I do really like the look of the figure, but I don't think he can stand in with your Marvel Legends figures. You're gonna have to set him up with your Selects. Alright, toy fans, well that's my review of the Marvel Select Colossus figure released by Diamond Select. Overall, I have to give this figure an emphatic buy. This figure has got some fantastic sculpt work, some excellent paint work, he's got great articulation, which is not something you see commonly on Select figures, and he just looks really, really good. And maybe I'm speaking as a Colossus fan, maybe I'm not being impartial enough, but I really find very little to complain about with this figure. The display base doesn't make a lot of sense for me, and I wish that his shoulder joint was just a little looser, but combine that excellent posability with the look of this guy and you just can't go wrong. Definitely give him a shot. Well, that's my review, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and a special thanks to Jeff for giving me this figure. If you guys like what you saw here, please feel free to rate, share, subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Do svidaniya, drug.